Understanding SQL joins is very essential in learning SQL. In this video, we're gonna do deep dive into the 4 types of SQL joins with very simple examples. And at the end, we're gonna talk about the union, and I'm gonna show you the differences between joins and union. And we start right now. Alright guys and girls, so far we have learned how to query only one table. In all our examples, we focused on the table customers, we done selects, where we filter the data and so on, but that was only one table. In real life scenarios, you will be working with a real database that contains a lot of different tables. And once you start writing SQL statements, you will be end up querying not only one table, but maybe multiple tables in order to get something meaningful of the data. So that means you need to start learning how to combine different tables, how to join those tables together in one SQL statement. This is very important in order to learn SQL, because once you master this, you will be good in SQL. Now, in our tutorial database, we will be working now with 2 tables, the customers and the orders. In the orders, you can see which customer did place which order. So now, in order to join those 2 tables, you have to specify 2 things. First, you need to determine what is the join key. So a join key, it is like a column that exists in both of the tables. For example, the customer ID, we can see it here in the customers and as well in the orders. So that means the customer ID is good candidate in order to join those tables, and it's gonna be our join key. The second thing that you need to specify is the type of the join. In SQL, we have 4 different types of joins. We have the inner join, left join, right join, and full join. It might be complicated at the start, but don't worry about it. I'm gonna explain all of those types step by step with examples. I'm gonna show you as well how SQL works with those types. Alright, so now let's start with the first type of joins. We have the inner join. The inner join, it is the most commonly used type of joins between developers. I as well tend to use a lot of inner joins in my SQL statements, so it is widely spread to use inner joins. So in SQL, there is very important aspect that you need to understand once you work with SQL joins, and that is in SQL, there is always a left table and a right table, and that's really depend how you are writing the script. We will see that in the examples. So in the SQL joins, there is the left table, we have the customers, and the right table, it is the orders. In the inner join, it doesn't matter, because in the result, once you are using inner join, only the matching rows will be presented as the result. So if you use inner join, you will exclude all those results that are not matching, and you will see as the result only the matching rows between those 2 tables. Okay, now to the second type of joins, we have the left join. As the name says, it is a left join. That means we are depending on the left table more than to the right table. So once you are specifying the left join in your SQL scripts, you are telling the database or SQL that I want everything, all the rows from the left table, and from the right table, only the matching rows. So once you are saying, okay, left join, that means you will find all the records from left and only the matching rows from the right side. So let's go to the next one. We have the right join. It is exactly the opposite. So you are saying here in your SQL script, right join, you are depending completely on the right table. So that means once you write that in your script, the SQL will present all the records from the right table in the results, and from the left table, only the matching records, only the matching rows. So it's really the way opposite as the left join. Then we have the last type of joins, we have the full join. Once you say in your script, I want to have full join, that means you want everything from both of the tables. That means from the left table, it's gonna retain all the rows. From the right table, you will get as well all the rows. So with full join, as the name says, it is everything.
Alright, so with that we have an overview about the joins, and now before we start talking about the first type, the inner join, we will learn quickly about the SQL aliases. It's like hidden tutorial not on the roadmap, but we have to learn it before we start writing SQL joins.
Okay, so now before we start having some examples, in order to understand and learn how to join tables using SQL, we have to learn very important things in SQL, and that is SQL aliases. You need to learn that once you start querying multiple tables in one SQL statement. So let's check this. If I want only to select the customer ID from customers, this should not be a problem. So if I execute this, I will get all the customer IDs. But once I specify multiple tables in one query, you need to tell the database which customer ID in which table, because as you see in our example, we have the customer IDs in two tables, in customers and in orders. And if you leave it like this, you will get an error where the database is going to tell you, I don't really understand which column do you mean. Do you mean the column from customers or from orders? That's why we need to specify one more thing near the column name, and that is the table name. So we write customers dot customer ID, and with that you are telling database, I want the customer ID from the customers. So if I execute this, I will get as well the same result. There is no problem here, but you need to specify that once you are working with multiple tables. But the annoying thing here, if you just always like write the table name over here, it's gonna be really annoying to write. That's why we're gonna work with aliases. So we're gonna give the tables like a nickname, and we call it in SQL aliases. Okay, so now in order to do that in SQL, we're gonna go just beside the table name, and we're gonna write down the keyword as, then give the alias name or the nickname. So I'm gonna use the C instead of customers, and now the database understand, okay, in my script he's using C instead of customers, so I can go everywhere and instead of using the customers I could say C. So if I run the result, I will get exactly the same thing. There is no error. But now, as you can see, it is much easier to handle my script. I'm gonna just write C dot customer ID instead of the customers dot customers ID. So it's really easier way to handle stuff, and I always tend to do that. So I really recommend to use aliases in order to have like smaller scripts. You could do as well the same for the columns. So for example, we have here the customer ID. I could go and rename that. And to do that, it's the same stuff. I go right beside it and write as. So instead of having customer ID, I'm gonna write like CID. So let's run this. And as you see, SQL understood that, and he is printing as the result as well CID. So he understands I'm renaming this column in my result as CID. There is very important aspect here to understand is that it's gonna rename that only in my script and in the results. The database will not go to the tables and gonna rename the tables or gonna rename the columns. There is different query to do that. So this command, the as, it is only temporarily at my script and the results. So nothing is changing in the data model or in the database. It's gonna stay the table's customers, and the column name gonna stay the customer ID. This is only like a tool to help you once you are writing SQL statements, and as well to help you rename stuff very fast to have it as a result.
Alright, so now we have everything to start with the first type of joins, the inner join.
Okay, so now let's start with the task in order to understand how to write SQL statements to join two tables. We're gonna start with the first task. It says find all customer ID, first name, order ID, the order quantity, excluding those customers who didn't place any orders. So in this example, as you see, it is not only the customers. We need some columns from the customers tables and some columns from the order tables, and we have to join them in order to do that. So let's start doing that step by step using SQL. So first we're going to start with the select. Since in the task it is like specifying the columns, we will not use the star. So select, we need the customer ID, then the first name, and the order ID and quantity. So now we need to specify the tables. We're gonna start from the customers. With the inner join here, it doesn't matter whether you are starting from left or from right. So I'm gonna start from the customers. And now, in order to specify the second table, we're gonna use the join statements. So we're gonna say inner join. And with that, I'm saying, okay, we're gonna join now the customers with another table. So we're gonna inner join the orders. With that, you are connecting two tables, the customers and the orders. As I said, you need to specify two things, the join type and the join key. We have already here specified the inner join because we don't need those customers that didn't place any orders. So we're going to use the inner join over here. And the second thing that you need to specify here, what is the join key? How are you going to connect those tables? You need to specify that for SQL in order to do that. So we're going to now go to the new line and say on. So the joining on those columns. So in order to specify the columns, I'm going to give now only some aliases. So instead of customers, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to call you C. And instead of orders, I'm going to call you as O. So now in order to join those tables, we need to find out what is our join key. Which column here exists in both of the tables. So we can see the customer ID, we can find it in the customers and in the orders, and it is the perfect column to join those tables. So we're going to connect both of them with the on. So I'm going to say, okay, let's take the customer ID from customers. It should equal to the customer ID in the orders. So o.customer ID. With that, I specify the rule or the key how the table is going to be joined. I said the customer ID from the left table should be exactly the customer ID from the right table, from customers and orders. And with that, I specified the rule. I specified over here as well the join type. And with that, we connected two tables. All right, so now before I go and run this query, we still have one problem, and is that the customer ID in the select, I didn't specify from which table. And if I run it like this, we will get an error. You could try it. But now we need to specify which customer ID I want. Is it from the customers or from the orders? So in order to do that, we're gonna use the C dot the table name or the alias in order to specify, okay, I want the customer ID from the customers. For the rest, you don't need to do that because it is a unique name, like the first name, it's unique column name only in the customers. But I really recommend you, once you are trying like to join some tables, it is very nice way to document your stuff to say, okay, the first name, it is from the customers. Because with the time, you could forget that, or if you don't understand or don't know the data model, it will be hard to understand whether, okay, this first name in the customers or in the orders. So it's really nice way to document that if you put just the table name or the alias at the start. With that, you could see very quickly, okay, those two columns come from the orders and those two columns come from the customers. And one more thing to make it look nicer, I'm just gonna use tab. So now we are ready, I think. Let's try to query that. So as you can see now in the results, we got the columns from both of the tables. So we have the customer ID, the first name from customers, the order ID, and the quantity from the orders. Okay, so now let's understand what the database was doing once we executed the inner join. So first, it's gonna select, okay, which tables do we need? In the script, we have the from customers, so it's gonna read the table customers, and then they have the join table orders. So that means the database is gonna focus on both of the tables. Then it's going to define, okay, which table is left and which table is right. Since we have first the customers in the from, it's going to consider the customer tables as the left table. And then since we have the orders in a join as the next, it's going to consider it as a right table. This is very important to do the joins, but since we are using the inner join, it doesn't really matter for us whether we use first customers or orders, but in the database, it's gonna follow the script. Okay, so now as the next step, the database is gonna check, okay, which column do we need? In our SQL script statement, we said we need only the customer ID first name, from customers, and from orders, we need the order ID and quantity. All right, so now as the next step, the database is going to check, okay, which rows should be presented as the results. And here is like the most important thing. We are using now the inner joins. That means the database should present only the record that is matching. So in order to do the match, it needs like the key column for the join. So we specified and said, okay, you need to check the customer ID between those two tables. So let's go through that. The first customer ID 1, we have it as the customers, and as well we have it as records in the orders. So that means there is a match between those two tables, and this customer will be presented. So here we will get the customer ID 1, first name Maria, and her order was 1001, and we have this quantity. So here we have the whole records of Maria from both of the tables. So we go now to the next one. We have John. John present as well as a customer ID 2 in the table order. So there is a match, and it will be presented as well in the results. And his order is 1002, and he has this quantity. So it's going to proceed in the third customer. The third customer exists in both of the tables, in customers and orders, and it will be as well listed in the results. And his order ID is this with quantity 500. So now we comes to the customer ID 4. The customer ID 4 exists only in the customers, and we don't find it in the orders. That's why there is no match, and the database is going to ignore this customer. And it's going to proceed as well over here. It's going to check, okay, we have the customer ID 5. It is only as well exists in the customers and not in the orders. There is no match. We have one more thing, that we have customer ID number 6 over here. We have it only on the orders, but we don't have it in the customer, so there is no match. So with the inner join, only if the customer or if the key exists in both of the tables, it's gonna be presented as a result.
Alright, so that's all for the inner join. Next we're gonna talk about the left join.
Okay, so now let's go to the next task, and we have the following. Find all customer ID, first name, order ID, quantity, but include those customers who didn't place any orders. So for us, that means we need to see as the result all the customers, not only those customers that did place an order, but all the customers. In order to do that, we're gonna use the left join. So we're going to have exactly the same query. There's nothing is changed, the same columns, the same tables. But instead of saying inner join, we're going to work with a left join. And saying left join, that means, okay, for the SQL, it's going to list all the customers. So let's see what's going to happen if we do that. Let me make it bigger a little bit. So as you can see here, as I said left join, we have all the informations from the customers and only the matching ones from the orders. All right, guys, again, let's understand what the database was doing once we executed the left join. So the database is going to focus on the customers and the orders. The database understands, okay, customers is the left table because it comes as first with the from. And the orders is the right table because it comes in the left join in the query as a second. So after that, it's going to specify, okay, the columns. Again, we have the customer ID, first name, order ID, and quantity. And so now it's going to start doing the matching and going to check, okay, which join type do we have? We have the left. So since we said, okay, it is a left join, the database is going to say, okay, I need everything from the left table without doing any matches. So we need everything. So it's going to list all the IDs and as well all the names without checking anything. But from the right side, we need only the matching record. So it's going to really check each one of them. So here, customer ID, it exists in the customers. So it's going to take it and put it as a result. So now for customer ID 2, we have as well one. It's going to put it as a result. The customer ID 3, there is matching. But now for Martin, he don't have any orders. So the database is going to show nulls. Instead of that, Null, it means like an empty, there is no value found or unknown. And for better as well, there is no customer ID with the number 5. That means there is nothing at the right side. We will have as well an empty. So this is how it looks. Once you execute the left join, you will get everything from the left and only the matching from the right. If there is anything missing, it's gonna put nulls.
Alright, so that's all for the left join. Next, we're gonna start talking about the right join. It is very similar to the left join.
Okay, so now let's jump to the next one. We're gonna talk about the right join. We have the following task. It's almost the same. Find all customer ID, first name, order ID, quantity, but this time include all orders, regardless of whether there is a matching customers. That means for us, okay, we need all the orders from the right table, from the orders. And in order to do that, we have the same setup over here in SQL. We just need to change the type of join. So we're gonna write here, right. Once you do that, you are controlling, okay, how the database is gonna match and gonna present the results. We will have the same setup over here, will not change anything, and let's run this. And with that, you can see, okay, the database did list all the orders from the order table, and from the left side, only the matching customers. Okay, so as usual, let's see what the database did once we executed the right join. We have the same setup. Customers is the left table, orders is the right table, and we have the same column as well. So customer ID, first name, order ID, and as well we have the quantity. But now here the difference is that we said it is a right join. So in order to do that in SQL, it's gonna like present all the results from the right table without checking whether there is a match with the left. So the database is going to select everything from here. So all the orders and all the quantities without checking anything from the left side. So now from the left side, it's going to only present what is matching. So it's going to check, okay, do we have customer ID 1? Yeah, we have it. So it's going to present the result over here on the left side. Do we have customer 2? We have it as well. Customer 3. We have George over here, but now we don't have a customer number 6. That means it's gonna be null again. So it's gonna be empty. We don't have a customer with the ID 6 in the customer tables. So with that, we presented everything, all the orders from the right sides, and only the matching informations from the customers.
Alright everyone, so that's all for the right join. Next, we're gonna start talking about the last type of joins, the full outer join.
Alright, let's move to the last one. We have the full join, and we have the following task. List customer ID, first name, order ID, quantity, but this time include everything. All orders and all customers. Okay, with the full join, I have two things to say. First is that the full join is only supported in some databases, like Microsoft SQL. So with MySQL or Oracle, you could not use the full join, but instead of that, I'm going to show you some workaround how to do full join with MySQL, so don't worry about it, but we need to twist some stuff in order to create the full join. If you are using Microsoft SQL, you can just go and say full join. The second thing is that full join has sometimes bad performance if you have big tables. So try really to avoid using the full join. In my projects, I always tend to use like inner join, left join, right join, or full outer joins. I really try to avoid using that. Full join has really bad performance. So if you have small tables, it should not be a problem. But once the table gets like big, the full join is gonna be really slow because you are saying, okay, give me everything from left, give everything from right, and that has sometimes bad performance. So try to avoid that. So now the question, how are we gonna do full join if we don't have in MySQL a full keyword? In order to do that, as I said, we're gonna use some workaround. So follow me in this. So a full join is actually a combination between a left and right. So left join plus right join. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go and duplicate this script. So we have twice the same query, but one we say left join and in the other we say right join. As the next tutorial, we're gonna talk about how to combine two statements in one. So in order to do that, we will use the keyword union. So once I put union, I'm just like adding two statements in one. So here I'm saying, okay, give me all the results from the left and combine it with the result from right. And if you execute it, you will get exactly the same result as the full join. So with that, you could see, okay, here I have all the customers and here as well, I have all the orders. So we have here a full join. All right, guys, so now let's see what the database is done once we executed the full join or the scripts that I showed you with left, union, right. So we have the same setup, customers, orders, and we have those 4 columns. So since it's full join, that means all the records from left and all the records from right. So it's going to start from the left. We will have all the customers and all the first names. And then it's going to start matching on the right side. So Maria, it has this order and this quantity. Customer ID has this order and this quantity. The 3, we have this ID and this quantity. But for Martin and Peter, we don't have any orders from them. So we're going to see nulls over here and null over here. But there is still something missing, that we don't have all the orders over here. That's why the database is gonna go and present this order ID and this quantity. And with that, it's gonna match on the left side. It says, okay, there is no customers on the left side. And it's gonna put over here some nulls. So with that, you got all the customers and you have all the orders that is matching for them and the way around. With that, you have all orders and all customers using the full join.
Alright guys, so with that we have learned all different types of joins. Next we're gonna talk about a similar concept. It is the union and union all.
Alright, so now we're gonna learn how to combine tables using union. Union is very important tools in SQL in order to combine tables and very powerful. So previously we have learned how to combine tables using the join methods. So what we are doing in joins, we have 2 tables, customers and orders, and we are joining the columns together. So at the results, we're gonna get one big table, one wide table with all the columns from left and from the right. But with union, we are as well like combining 2 tables, but instead of combining the columns, here we're gonna combine the rows together. So here we're gonna get very long table, including all the rows from the left and from the right, but having the same columns. So we will not get all columns from left and right. Instead of that, we will get all the rows from left and all the rows from right. Okay, so now in order to understand the union, we're gonna have the following example. So in our tutorial database, we have 2 tables. We have the table customers and we have the table employees. So now we have the following tasks. Make a list of all persons from customers and from employees, where we have the first name, last name, and the country. So that means doesn't matter whether the person is a customer or employee, we're gonna make a list with everything. So in order to solve these tasks, we're gonna use the union operator between 2 tables, customers and employees. So if we check this closely, you will find those 3 informations in both of the tables. So we have first name in customers, we have as well the same in employees, last name in customers, last name in employees, and we have the country in employees and the same as customers. This is very important that we have the matching columns from both of them. So the database, if we start the union between both of them, the database can select the columns only from the left table. So we will have first name, last name, and country, and we will not have here again the same columns from the right one. It's not join, it is a union. So the left one gonna decide what are the column names. So this is as well very important. So the database gonna go and select everything from the left table and put it as the result. And it's gonna do the same for the right one. So that for the employees, gonna select all the records and put it over here. And with that, we have a full list of all persons from customers and as well from employees in one results. This is very important that both of the tables at the SQL query should have exactly the same number of columns and as well the same order. So if we are doing like in the employees first, the last name, then the first name, in the results we will get that switch as well. So be careful with the order of columns, and the number of columns should be matching between left and right. One more thing is very important is that there is two types of union. Type number one, that is the union all, where we're gonna get the result exactly like this. So that means if there is any duplicates between the table 1 and the table 2, those duplicates gonna stay at the result. So there is no check the uniqueness of the results. If there is any like person on the left and the same person at the right, nothing gonna happen. We will get the whole results. But if you wish to remove those duplicates, so if you check the results over here, you can see John, he is customer, and at the same time he is as well employee. So this could happen, yeah. So in order to remove such a like duplicates, we could use the other type of union, and that is only the union without union all. So I'm gonna show you that once we are writing the SQL statements. So this is as well very important to understand in the union. If you want to have the duplicates like exactly like the data inside the tables, then you should use union all. If you want to remove the duplicates, then use union. So now let's see how we're gonna do that in SQL. So this is really easy to do in SQL. All what we're gonna do is that we're gonna write two queries, one for customers, one for employees, and then just put union between them, and we're gonna get the results. So let's try building the first one. So select first name, last name, and we need the country from customers. So this is the first query. Let's just execute that and see. Okay, now I have a list from the customers, and then we're gonna write that again for the employees. So select, in employees we have as well first name, last name, and emp country from employees. So let's run the query and see. So now we have the list from employees. So as you can see, we have now two queries, one for customers and one employees. In order to do the union, like to maintain all the duplicates as well, we're gonna write the keyword between them, union all. So now we're gonna run the whole thing and let's check. So with that, we got all the first name, last name, country from both of the tables, from customers and employees. And as you can see, this list contains duplicates because, for example, John is in customer as well in the employees. So if we wish like to remove such a duplicates between customers and employees or other results, we just remove the all from here. We just use the union. So let's run that again. So now we're gonna get a unique list of information. So John can only happen once over here. So this is how we're gonna do it in union. One more thing is about how to control the column names. So as you can see, the first name, last name, country, this comes from the query above. So this query over here is gonna control the naming of our table. So if you wish to have like different column name, so don't change it over here because nothing gonna happen. Database is gonna just ignore it. So here we're gonna control the names. So if I wish to add, for example, let's say person, first name, and here person, last name, and here person, country, and we rerun the query. As you can see, we have the names over here. And if you change anything over here in the query below, nothing gonna happen. So let's have first name. So let's run the query. You see, nothing gonna happen. So now let's test a few things over here. So if I just make a problem where I'm gonna have first we have the last name, and then comes the first name. So it is the opposite as the first query. So let's run this. As you can see, the database will not notice that we have here mistake or we have problem where we have above the first name, last name, and then here we have last name, then first name, because the database doesn't care about that. It only cares that both have the same data type. Like since we have here var character and here we have var character, it could present the results. So for the database, it doesn't care about like whether you are doing it rightly or not. The column name, they don't say anything for it. So that's why be careful about the order of the columns when you are doing the union between two tables. So now if we go and try another data type, for example, customer ID. So customer ID is integer and the first name over here is var character. So if I run the query, we will get an error because I think it's hidden over here, because there is mismatching between the data type. The database cannot like combine strings and then after that we're gonna have integer. That's why the data type is very important for SQL. So let me just repair everything and run. So now it works because the data type is same. So let's try some other errors. I'm just making things broken. So above we have 3 columns. We have first name, last name, country, and we have here the same. So if I have like different number of columns between the two of the tables, let's say have salary. So now we have 4 columns in one SQL and the other we have 3. If I run this query, we will get as again an error because it's gonna say you have different number of columns between those queries and we cannot do the union. That's why the data type is very important. The number of columns is very important, and as well the order of the columns should be matching.
Alright everyone, so with that we have covered the SQL joins, and now you know how to combine SQL tables together. And if you like this video and my work and you want to support the channel, then subscribe, like and comment, and in the video description you will find a link to free SQL materials like the database and the data of this tutorial, the SQL cheat sheet, and as well all the presentations. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye.